What's up, guys? You are on the air and off the books with Bethann and Samantha, and today we are going to be reviewing two books that we have just read within the last 2 weeks? You say 1 week?
A week.
Yeah. We were fast.
This was fastest I've read a book in a long time.
Yes, it's called. Well, the first one's called The Butterfly Garden, and that is by
Scott Hutchison.
Okay. And then The Vanishing Girls, which we talked about in either the last podcast or the last couple podcasts. I can't really remember when exactly we talked about it.
Yeah, because in our, time frame, we have, different time frame than you guys get.
Yes.
So, for us, it's, one right after the other. But for you guys, it's going to be spaced out a little bit.
Right.
So, this may be a few episodes ago, but it is The Vanishing Girls book recommendation episode.
Yes.
And we did not finish that book, so we're going to try to finish today what our thoughts were.
Yes, and that is by Lisa Reagan.
Yes.
So, you want to talk about Vanishing Girls first? Because I feel like there's a lot more to talk about in that.
So, I think we should premise it by saying we read Vanishing Girls, because
Yes.
I've read The Butterfly Garden before you guys read The Butterfly Garden.
Yes.
And so, we read Vanishing Girls, and then what happened was I was like, you should read The Butterfly Garden because it reminds me of Vanishing Girls. And tell me what you think.
Yes.
And then that's when you picked it up, and then Nolan was listening to it.
Yes.
And so that's what prompted you to read that particular book. So I think I don't think it matters which one we talk about first, but I just wanted to say, why you decided to go ahead and read The Butterfly Garden all of a sudden.
Right. Just
so that they kind of know. I don't know, let's start with The Butterfly Garden, and then we can end with, the high note.
Yes.
Because, it's not that The Butterfly Garden was bad. It's just that it wasn't as good.
It wasn't as exciting.
Yeah.
And that's my only complaint with The Butterfly Garden. There were a few things that I was not clear on The Butterfly Garden. The Butterfly Garden.
Butterfly Garden.
But, okay, so do you want to tell them kind of what it's about?
Yes, and so trigger warnings.
Yes.
First off, if you do not like women's abuse, child abuse, if you do not like, if those things, trigger you.
Yeah. Not that you would like it, but if they trigger you.
Yeah, that's true. That's not what I mean. If you do not like reading about those things, if you're very sensitive to those particular topics, then you probably shouldn't listen to or you should just listen to the episode and not check out the books, because they're pretty heavy in that kind of content. So if you're very sensitive to those things and if you can't get past reading them, if it causes you depression or things like that, then we're letting you know right off the bat, this is not for you, because they're definitely thrillers.
Yes.
And they're very graphic.
Yeah.
And they're not as graphic as you would think, but it's enough that would cause you sadness.
Yeah, sensitive topics for sure.
Yeah, exactly. So, The Butterfly Garden is about this girl who, and this is spoilers all the way.
Yes.
So, if you want to read it, stop now and then come back.
Yes.
So, it's actually book one of a series going off of these two detectives and all of the things that they do in their special victims unit. And this particular instance is them finding this garden of women who were entrapped and stolen by this man, and how they were freed and escaped. And this one particular girl is the ringleader of all of these kidnapped women. And she was taken. It turns out that she's 14 or 15 years old, but she's playing it off as she's 20-something years old.
Mm-hmm.
And she runs away from her home because she has an abusive family, and she goes and lives in this flat with all these women in I think it's New York, isn't it?
Yes, it's New York.
New York, that's what I thought. And so she's a waitress at this serving place that does parties and stuff like that, and she gets taken by this man who is basically the gardener. And so what he does is he captures these women from ages what is it?
16.
Oh, 16
to 21.
21. That's right, because it's like a specific age range that he likes, and he takes them. He does unspeakable things to them.
Yes. And side note,
Yeah.
he takes them from age 16 and gets rid of them, quote unquote, gets rid of them at 21 because that is the life expectancy of a butterfly.
An actual butterfly, and that's very, very important because
they are all his butterflies.
Yes, and he tattoos wings on their back, like the third day that he has them.
Yes.
And they're named after a very specific butterfly. And that's who they become in this garden. And it's like this big, huge, like biodome type thing that they're living in on this huge acres of land that he has.
What are you picturing it as?
Like this huge, like, have you ever, that's not a very good description. But when I picture it as like this huge, like, ecosystem, but it's like this huge like snow globe dome that is over the top of all these, like a massive greenhouse is what I picture.
Yeah.
Because I only picture it that way because it says that she climbs the trees and looks out the very top window and sits up in like the mountain area out the top window, so he has this whole thing caged off.
Yeah.
It's like an enclosure.
See, I picture it as this big cement squarish type of like weird design building coming out of a mountain.
Yeah.
And like he'll say the walls will come down, and that's when you can see like all the, we'll get to that anyway. So when the walls come down, I picture just like all like plexiglass type thing, and you can see everything. See the outside. I picture their house being like a little farmhouse.
Yeah.
Just like kind of off.
Like because they're on a couple acres. Have to be because there's so many girls.
Yeah.
And so they live in this ecosystem, and they have like a stream that runs through there and a little pond in there that they can literally like swim in, and like a little waterfall. Like it's just massive, and I think that's the first thing that makes it a little unrealistic to me is that how could he hide such a thing?
Yeah. It doesn't make any sense to me
either. It
either.
doesn't. He would have to have like literally 40 acres to like hide something so like in the middle of nowhere.
Or maybe he doesn't hide it. Maybe it's just like, this is my building, and
yeah, and like it's private property.
Yeah.
But I can't see that nobody would have stumbled upon it.
Yeah.
So that's a little bit of an unrealistic thing for me. But anyway, so she's younger than what she's supposed to be, but he doesn't know that because she has a fake ID because she ran away from home. So she gets captured, she gets tattooed, he claims her as his, and she meets all these other butterflies. And the thing is like, because they're literally like butterflies to him, like you said, once they turn 21, he takes them away, is with them for like one last time, and then he like either, we were confused about this part too, is because in my head what he does is he skins them, their backs, and frames their butterfly wings, like, you know how like those old Japanese like tattoo things where they like have skinned men and like hang their like skin in those picture frames? That's what it reminds me of what he did. But you said,
I take it as he lays them on, because it does describe this, but it's wishy-washy in the first part of the book because it does make you think that he's skinning them. But then once you get towards like the middle of the book, it says that he lays them on this embalming table.
Yeah.
And he puts them to sleep with an injection, and he injects their bodies with embalming fluid. And then I think that he poses them and he puts them in this glass case and pours resin so they're preserved
forever.
Yes.
So that he can see their backs, like they're like almost like a butterfly collector.
Exactly.
Would pin the butterflies down and like spread their wings out so you can see like what you have.
Right.
Like that's almost what he is. And so it's about him maintaining these girls. And so what you find out is that his oldest son is a maniac.
Yeah.
And he's like a brutal rapist. Like that's really harsh terminology, but he really is. He like beats them and like almost till they're dead. He ends up killing a couple girls, I think. And he's like, his father cannot control him because his father made the mistake of sharing his possessions with him. Because the sick part about it is that you relate to the father.
Yeah.
And that he makes you feel sympathy for him because he really honestly kind of does care about these butterflies.
Yeah, and it does, when you're reading the book, he never seems mean. Like there's not a single part in the book where you're like, this guy he's acting mean towards these girls. Like obviously I'm not trying to justify this dude or anything
because
like that.
he is doing something horrible.
Right, but you just, in the book, you just have to read it. Like, it's so weird how they just make him so innocent.
Yes. And so one thing leads to another, and the girl ends up escaping, and I won't, like, we're probably not going to tell you, like, the ending because there's this big, huge twist in the end.
Yeah.
That is kind of really hard to understand, and if you do read it and you're not sure about the ending either, like, talk to us about it, and we'll talk to you in more depth, because we both had different ideas about the ending.
Right.
But she does escape.
Yes. And I'm going to go back to the comment you made. You said that she was, like, the ringleader.
She was, yeah.
So, what do you mean by that?
Like, she was, like, to me, in the book, the most important butterfly to him.
Gotcha.
Like, and she was able to have, like, this sway over all the other girls there.
Yeah.
Because especially after that one butterfly dies,
mm-hmm.
she literally assumes her role and, like, kind of keeps the morale and, like, keeps them together. And she can get basically whatever she wants out of the gardener. Like, if she asks for it, 9 times out of 10, he's going to give it to her.
Yes, and she does end up, I won't get into detail about this, but the gardener also has a younger son, and he doesn't really, he's in denial of what's going on. Like, he generally knows what's happening, but he doesn't know the whole situation.
Yeah.
So she falls in love, quote unquote, falls in love with this guy. Like, she has real feelings for him.
It's like Stockholm Syndrome.
Yes, and I think that is what helps her escape.
Yeah, because he has way more of a conscience.
Yeah.
Than the other 2 men.
Yeah.
And then that's how it kind of gets blown to smithereens, and that's how they're found.
Right.
So I don't know, like, I think it's not that it was a bad book. It's just, like you said, it wasn't as, like, exciting.
Right.
And it could have been way more lively. It was a very, very unique topic.
It was very calm for the topic that it was talking about.
Exactly. Because when I was recommended this book on BookTube, it came with a million trigger warnings, and I was really hesitant to read it because I don't particularly like gory details about stuff like that because it just rubs me the wrong way.
Mm-hmm.
But it was not as bad as she was saying that it was, and it could have been so much more intense, so much more gripping. There could have been so many more, like, climaxes to the book instead of the way that it was portrayed. And I think the problem is a lot to do with why she went, like, what she covered up while she was there.
Right, yeah.
And, like, the fact that you find out, like, I just don't want to spoil it, but that there's, like, an escapee before she even gets there.
Yes.
And, like, what all ties into that.
Yeah, but we're not going to tell you anything about the escapee. You're just going to have to figure it out. You'll have to pick up the book, read it,
or
see
even
if you can figure
just,
it out.
like, wiki it and, like, hear it for yourself or whatever, because there's nothing wrong with going on if you don't really want to.
Yeah. I did not guess the ending. I kind of made a connection with, you know, that whole thing at first, but I did not think that it was going to be connected like that.
Yeah, it definitely blindsides you, I think.
Yeah.
And I think my other gripe is that the detectives that the whole series is supposed to be about aren't an integral part of the book at all.
No, they are
you learn almost nothing about them.
They are side characters, like
Absolutely.
side characters.
They're not even dynamic.
No, they did not need to add them in the book description whatsoever. That could have been left out.
Yes, and the whole series doesn't even need to be named after them because it has nothing to do with anything.
Yeah.
Like, it has everything. They're definitely stand-alone books, even though they're a series.
Yeah.
I think there's 4 or 5. And you can all get them on Kindle Unlimited, or we can probably get them as an interlibrary loan for you.
Mm-hmm.
But the second book I know is about, like, the abduction of children, and that's why I haven't picked that one up yet, because it's too cringy for me.
Yeah, I don't know.
Know your limits, guys. Know your limits.
I might read it.
If you start it, let me know what you think, because if this one wasn't as, like, bad, then maybe, like, that
It's just scary having a kid and then, like, reading stuff about this, because it's, like...
It's close to real life.
You don't know, like, people you walk by could be participating in stuff like this, and you just don't know who you're next to.
Yeah.
You never know. It's scary.
That's why I said after we finished Vanishing Girls that we should read this, because it kind of reminds me of this, because of what the guy does in Vanishing Girls. And Vanishing Girls was literally everything that I wanted Butterfly Garden to be.
Yes.
So Butterfly Garden was like a 3.5 out of 5 for me.
Mm-hmm. Same.
And Vanishing Girls was definitely like a 4.78 out of 5 for me.
Yeah, and Vanishing Girls follows this detective. There's 10 books in the series, 11 books.
And the 10th book is coming out this December.
Yes, so it follows this detective. Her name's Josie Quinn. And so the first book is about this girl. She gets kidnapped, and it spikes Josie's interest, and she wants to be on the case, but she can't because she is
she's been suspended.
Yeah, she's been suspended. And so she is trying to work with her. It's going to be her ex-husband, right? They're not divorced yet?
They're separated.
Yes, they're separated. So she and her ex-husband, separated husband, whatever, are kind of working together this whole time, back and forth, to try to figure out where this girl is. And I feel like we just can't give too much into this book because every chapter is like a twist.
But that's the great part about it, is because...
Yeah.
We
said we were going to spoil it, so just stop there if you don't want to hear anything.
Exactly, because every single thing that happens to her is a climactic moment.
Yes.
She does not ever tell you why she's suspended until halfway through the book.
Yes.
And every time you get a little bit more snippet of information,
Yeah.
and it pulls you in every single time. You're just like, why is she freaking suspended? Because it just, and then when you find out, it was so soul crushing for me to find out why she was suspended. And it was the perfect build up into that. And that was literally not even the climax of the book, but there are these little blips through the whole thing.
I feel like there were so many points in this book where you're just like, what?
Just happened.
We were both reading it at the same time, and we would just be like, what?
Yeah, it's
what?
Did you read that? Oh my gosh. That's crazy.
But, so basically, she finds out that this is this whole thing is just a big ring.
Job.
Like a drug ring, but not a drug ring. It's like a kidnapping ring.
Yep, and it's a
trafficking.
Trafficking, yeah. I was gonna try to figure out the way to say that without being too obtuse about it.
Right.
It's a trafficking ring inside the freaking police department.
Yes. And it's crazy. Just I feel like this whole book, it drops hints so you can make connections and you can figure out yourself what's going on, because that's what we were doing through the entire book. We're just throwing out theories, and I mean, most of our theories were pretty spot on.
Yes, but she still managed to stump us because I never anticipated who the person would be that actually did it. I didn't even see that coming. Yeah. And she slipped him in such an integral moment that you totally missed that he's a super important part.
Yeah, and that's why you gotta pay attention when you read these kind of books, because it's
always...
Yeah,
because then you're gonna be like me sitting at the computer being like, what did I just read?
Yeah, it's always a character that's mentioned, but... You just have to connect the dots. You have to think of every little detail. If you're that kind of reader, this is a great book. If you like crime solving, if you like CSI Miami, some Criminal Minds, read this book. Connect the dots.
Yes. Oh my gosh, it's amazing. I was reading it every chance I could get. I love that I could take it from the computer screen at home to my phone to my Kindle, because it's just I couldn't get enough of it. I couldn't stop reading it. I had to read it every single second. I had to force Samantha, hey, where are you? I'm on chapter 68.
68,
I'm 58. You have to stop reading right now so that I can catch up right now.
Oh my god.
So I'd have to make her stop so that I could catch up, and then we could talk about it some more. Read it with somebody. We recommend that. Don't read it alone.
Yeah, this was a really awesome book to read with somebody, because you can go back and forth on your theories, and you can see what makes sense.
Yeah. And so,
so good.
Another good point about this book is that if you've noticed, we haven't even gotten for the tip of the iceberg with this book. We were able to explain the butterfly garden for so many minutes. In this book, there's so many details, so many subplots, so many different this and that's that we couldn't even begin. It'd take us 2 hours. I feel to really go through each and everything to show you what this book is. So you have to read it. Book club this book.
Yes.
And you don't even have to be together.
100%.
Social distance. get on the Zoom or whatever, or like do like what we did, like, hey, where are you? Text me where you are, like what chapter you're on, what location are you on, and then like
start a text group.
A text book club.
Yes.
And like while you're reading it, throw things out and be like, hey, where are you guys?
Yes.
And then like, okay, I'll wait until you're all here, and then like let's talk about what just freaking happened.
Or like, let's read to chapter 10. Let's discuss chapter 10.
Mm-hmm.
The first 10 chapters. That would be really cool, actually.
That would be actually awesome.
Yeah.
We kind of do that. Yeah. We kind of do that. Me, you, and Nolan. Because I can't get Dakota to like believe me, or he just kind of scoffs. He's just like rolls.
That's what we need to do. We need to wait for Nolan to finish this book. We need to all read the second one together.
Yes, but they have to read the first one first to be up to speed.
Yes, and then we need to start a group messaging about it.
Yes. And then like, if people want to join, they can add in.
Yes.
And then we could just...
100% great idea.
That would be so cool, because you can have like up to 10 people, I think, on a group chat on your iPhone.
Yeah.
Which is the perfect number for a book club. It's not too many.
Yes. You got
there
it.
you go. You're welcome. I'm just
Great
saying,
ideas by Bethann and Samantha.
But seriously, like, you should, because I bought this book on Kindle Unlimited for $6, but right now it's $3. So you can go on there, get it. We can ILL it, whatever, for you, and then you can start reading it. But seriously, like, legitimately, like,
yes,
get the book, read it. And yeah, we kind of spoil a little bit for you, but it's not going to take away from the. Even if you do end up listening to this, there's too much to share.
We spoiled maybe 5% of this book.
Yeah, like, and not even
There's so
enough.
much more.
And she is such a like unlikable / likable character that she has just enough of both to be a realistic human being to me.
Yes.
And that's
100%.
what I like about her. Like, she's vulnerable and very, very dynamic of a character.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what makes it okay that there's 10 books about her. Because like, if she was a stagnant character, then I wouldn't be able to deal with it. Like, the Butterfly Garden, that whole series, like, I'm not really sure what they're supposed to be going off of.
Me either.
Unless they're just using it as an excuse to write these standalones, which is fine. But if you're looking for a thriller, mystery, suspense kind of thing that's like a real life situation, this is for you.
Lisa Reagan, 100%. Go pick up these books, read them, tell us what you think about them, start your book clubs.
Yeah, start your text messaging book clubs. Thanks, COVID-19.
Yes, email us at offthebooks@khcpl.org. Tell us what you think, and have a great day, guys.
Bye.
Bye.